Okay, happy Labor Day. I am meteorologist Steve Krasnowski with your weather briefing Storm Scoop. Lots to talk about today, so let's just jump right in. We've discussed ad nauseum the return of the heat and humidity into the same areas that have been dealing with. They've been dealing with it pretty much all summer. So if you've been dealing with heat and humidity this summer, it's back for the next couple of days, and we do have our system that we've been talking about all weekend, ready to push through and ready to roll, bringing some relief, but that won't be until Wednesday at the earliest. So right now we're going to have to deal with heat values, approaching 100 degrees in many areas, including southern Midwest and the Northeast here, excuse me. So this graphic is just the forecasted temps for this afternoon from the European model. If I put this into motion to the current temps, you see a lot of areas are still starting the morning off, I wouldn't say cool, but maybe some more comfortable temperatures this morning. But as you saw, if I put this model into motion, the heat definitely builds up and builds back, and it's something we'll be having to deal with. But today's discussion really needs to focus on the tropics. I know it feels like we've been talking about the tropics ad nauseum. Maybe we have. I need to stop using that word. So let's just dive into, we have two systems to talk about, specifically in the Atlantic and Gulf, and we'll go from there. Real quick, just want to show sea surface temperatures, and this can be important not just for today or tomorrow, but over the next month or so as we really crank it into tropical season. The water is just raring to go with real strong and warm temperatures. It's a lot like bath water once you move south of North Carolina. So just showing most of the water is about 84 degrees. Moving into the Gulf, as you get closer to the coast, it's a little bit warmer, hitting like 86, 87. Might even find some 88 values if you get closer to the coast. So this is important because of these two little crazy cats. We get Tropical Storm Gordon, who we're going to talk about today a little more specifically. Tropical storm, 45 mile per hour winds. The pressure is not anything to really get excited about. I don't think it's going to get too much stronger. It's possible as it crosses over into these warm waters that we get into Category 1. I wouldn't be surprised by that, but I don't think we're going to get anything more than that. Going back here to Florence, we're not going to talk about this invest here. Not today. Florence is going to have a little more time, and we'll talk about this later in the week. Eventually, we'll have what it looks like high pressure at the coast, high pressure, your Bermuda high here, and then another high pressure up in here when Florence gets closer. And what we'll probably you're going to have to look at is whether that first high will bounce Florence this way and see if the other two highs bring Florence into a path right in here, because these storms move to the path of least resistance. So we'll draw that out. I don't have my tools up right now, but we'll draw that out for you once it gets a little closer. That's sort of my first guess of what might happen. Is this area here is going to have to look for Florence to come up based on where the highs might be. So anyway, what we need to talk about today is Gordon. So let's do that. Alright, so here is NOAA's prediction and setup for Gordon. So, like I said, it is a tropical storm, and they have it forecasting staying as a tropical storm, and I think a lot of their ideas here are good. I like the timing, I like the strength. I said before that Gordon may have the chance to become briefly a very weak hurricane, and I only say that because I envision winds topping out around 70 miles an hour, and the threshold for a hurricane is 74. Sustained winds at 74. So, could I see it happening? Sure. It's like a 35-40% chance to me, if even that high. So, I think our forecast is going to stick with keeping a tropical storm. It's just, with all the elements that go into forecasting a hurricane or a tropical system, the water is one of the most important. And, it's very warm. It's just, you'll hear me say it quite often, it's bath water, and that's one of the conditions that make it right for development. So, we'll go from there. Here we go. So while many of these areas are talking about heat and humidity returning, and then our system pushing through, and we'll get to that later in the week, the main thing we're talking about now is Gordon, and then eventually Florence, who's back here. But Gordon, here's the precipitation that will be associated with it. And Gordon's main thing, besides, having tropical storm winds, with maybe some hurricane gusts, is going to be just the surf, the waves, and the rain that's associated with it, bringing in some flooding. So that's what we have to keep our eye on there. Some levels approaching, maybe 4 or 5 inches of rain. So keep our eye on it. Here's the GFS. Here's Gordon. I actually have to back her up a little bit. There we go. This is this morning's GFS. It's Gordon. Still kind of in terms of its setup. The mid levels look good, but it's just not hold itself together yet, and it will, I think, when it hits some of this open space. Gives it some time to reform, but just not enough to really get strong enough and advance way into the hurricane levels. So we'll put into motion. You can see all that precip riding north and west, entering the Gulf Coast region. We talked about the impacts of who's going to get some of that, most of that rain. And we push through. I can see the system coming back northeastward. See, as it brings all that precip, it kind of merges with another low, and then next Monday the northeast gets some tropical moisture, and northern New Hampshire and northeastern New York gets some good rains out of this. So just keep this keep your eye open for this, especially in those areas, in the southeast coast. It's going to be mostly rain and wind and surf. But again, if anything, stalls it out and keeps over water a little bit more, we might have the opportunity to get stronger. But right now we're looking at Tropical Storm Gordon with, maybe some hurricane force, gusts. But, and then eventually that tropical moisture will head up to the northeast and, bring them a good gulp of rain. We're going to call that a day for now. And we'll start talking about Florence and some other things, and, have a great Labor Day. I am meteorologist Steve Krasnowski for Weather Briefings. Storm Scoop.